A man takes a girl away from her father to protect her from the zombies and from her dad as well. He spends years living far from the zombies, to the point that he thinks they've all died out. What he doesn't know is that the zombies are still alive and that her father is alive too. Will he be able to keep the girl safe from them? And what's the real story with her father? We'll find out at the end of the video, so let's dive in. It all begins with a group of people riding a big bus with soldiers. Why? Because according to the radio, the government is moving them to a shelter since zombies have spread throughout the city, attacking anyone they see and turning them into more zombies. Among these people on the bus is Patrick, his wife Emma, their daughter Lou, and Patrick's friend Jack. At that moment, everything seems fine, and the bus is heading to the shelter with no issues. But suddenly, the bus in front of them comes to a standstill. One of the soldiers on Patrick's bus tries to contact the soldier on the other bus to find out why they stopped so abruptly, but there's no answer. Not only that, but everyone hears gunshots coming from the other bus. Immediately, a soldier from Patrick's bus steps out to check on the people in the other bus and see what's going on. As soon as that soldier steps outside, the driver of Patrick's bus locks the door behind him. Worried zombies might be nearby and could get inside. The soldier lights a small flare and heads over to the other bus. Everyone inside Patrick's bus is trembling with fear, especially since the soldier who left hasn't returned. That makes another soldier anxious, so he also steps out to check on him. The real problem happens the second he leaves the bus. Bam! A zombie jumps him and bites him right on the neck. In the chaos of being bitten, the soldier accidentally kills the bus driver. Everyone on Patrick's bus panics, screaming at the sight of the zombie tearing the soldier apart and barging onto the bus. Just then, Jack leaps into action, pushing the zombie out of the bus with difficulty, and Patrick quickly slams the door to keep it from getting back in. Afterward, Jack turns to Patrick and says, "We have to protect ourselves from these zombies. That soldier outside has weapons. I'll go down and grab them, and you cover me." Sure enough, Jack jumps off and begins gathering the guns off the soldier. But the soldier, who was bitten earlier, suddenly transforms into a zombie, just as you'd expect, and attacks Jack. Jack manages to shoot him with the pistol. Unfortunately, the gunshots attract every zombie in the other bus, sending them racing toward Jack. He has no choice but to hide under his own bus. Meanwhile, Patrick fails to shut the bus door in time, so one of the zombies manages to climb in. Worse still, the zombies outside smash through the bus windows and swarm in. It's a gruesome, heart-wrenching scene as the zombies devour people mercilessly. In the chaos, people desperately push and shove to escape, and Patrick ends up separated from his wife, Emma, and their daughter. He does manage to get out of the bus in one piece. Jack shows up right then, furious with Patrick for getting separated from Emma. Meanwhile, Emma and Lou have found safety in a car. Emma is weeping, terrified, until suddenly a zombie attacks the car and grabs hold of Emma, trying to bite her. Emma quickly pushes Lou away to protect her, but another zombie hears Emma's screams and comes charging. Emma is cornered, but thankfully Jack arrives just in time, shooting every zombie in sight. So Emma and Lou get out of the car unscathed, and Patrick arrives as well. Here's the devastating part. Emma has been bitten on the arm by the zombies that attacked her. Patrick and Jack are both horrified. There's only one desperate solution. Patrick has to cut off Emma's arm before she fully turns into a zombie. Heartbroken and sobbing, he does just that. 9 years later now, the entire world is basically covered in ice. There seem to be hardly any humans left, just zombies everywhere. We see Patrick hunting a horse and then heading back home on his snowmobile. By this point, Patrick looks like a completely different man, weighed down by sorrow and grief over everything that's happened. When he gets home, he immediately cooks the horse meat, then sits down to eat by himself, just him and his dog. Why alone? Because Jack took Lou away from Patrick after Emma died and has been raising her in the house across the way. Later, we'll find out how Emma died and why Jack now wants nothing to do with Patrick. Anyway, after a while, Patrick heads outside to refill the generator with fuel and switch on the electricity. Then he returns home and sits in front of the radio, talking to himself like he's lost his mind. The next day, we see Jack wake up, startled that Lou isn't by his side. He rushes off to find her and discovers she's already making her own breakfast. So he goes over, helps her, and gives her a biscuit. But Lou slips that biscuit into her pocket, asking Jack for another one. Little does Lou know that Patrick is actually her real father. She thinks Jack is her dad. After finishing breakfast, Lou takes the extra biscuit she'd hidden from Jack and happily goes to give it to Patrick's dog. Meanwhile, Patrick calls for his dog, and the two of them hop on the snowmobile, heading into town to scavenge for supplies. Night falls, and we see Jack holding a photo of Emma, crying. Lou sees him and says they should bring her flowers. Jack smiles and gives Lou a present, since it's her birthday. Lou is overjoyed when she opens the gift to find a picture of her mom. At the same time, Patrick has prepared a birthday cake for Lou, but can't bring himself to give it to her, knowing Jack despises him and would never allow it. So Patrick ends up feeding the cake to his dog. Lou, delighted with her birthday gift, listens as Jack explains how birthdays used to be full of guests and presents. This makes Lou a bit sad, imagining a celebration with other kids and more gifts. She asks Jack, "Are we sure all the zombies are really gone now?" Jack answers confidently, "Yes, they're all dead from the cold." Relieved, Lou cheers up and dances with Jack. Later on, everyone goes to sleep, but Lou wakes up from a nightmare about a terrifying-looking zombie. She's so scared that she goes to the window to make sure there are no zombies outside. And that's when she sees one, shockingly real, a strange new type of zombie digging around near the house. Lou is petrified and stays completely still. The next day, Jack wakes up looking for Lou again and finds her hiding under the bed. He asks her to come out, but she's still too scared. Trying to calm her down, he crawls under the bed to talk. Lou explains she saw a zombie outside the door last night, digging in the ground. Of course, Jack is immediately alarmed and asks her what it looked like. She describes it: white skin, claws, fangs. Hearing this, Jack relaxes somewhat, because that doesn't match the zombies he's familiar with. So he tells her she must have been having a nightmare, since the cold had supposedly killed all the old zombies. Lou starts to feel better. She goes out, like she does every day, to see the dog, but this time, she finds Patrick there with the dog. Patrick tries to talk to Lou, his daughter, for a moment, but he doesn't get the chance. Jack comes rushing out, wielding a gun and shouting at Patrick to get away from Lou. He even threatens to kill Patrick's dog if he doesn't leave immediately. Lou starts crying because she loves that dog, so Patrick takes the hint, grabs his dog, and rides away on his snowmobile in silence. To understand how Emma died and why Jack took Lou while resenting Patrick so much, we need to flash back a little while after that bus attack. We learn that Patrick spiraled into a dark place. He was constantly drunk, miserable with life. Being drunk all the time, he started hallucinating and doing foolish things. For example, one time he went out with Emma, who had survived but lost her arm as we saw earlier, to look for food. Patrick, drunk, dropped a liquor bottle on the ground. Emma yelled at him, warning him that the zombies might hear. Angry, Patrick snapped back at her and stormed off, leaving her alone. Emma, frightened and crying, got into the car but couldn't start it. Meanwhile, a nearby zombie attacked the car and Emma was killed. Patrick returned home later, drunk as usual, ignoring Lou's cries. Jack overheard Lou's sobs and came to check on them. He found Patrick sprawled on the floor, wasted. Panicking, Jack asked where Emma was. Patrick casually said he left her in the car alone in the city because she deserved it. Jack lost his mind, furious, and took Lou away, fearing Patrick's neglect would get her killed. Before leaving, Jack told him, "From this moment on, forget you have a daughter named Lou," and walked off with her. Back to the present. Patrick has arrived in town with his dog. He heads straight into the supermarket to gather supplies and picks up a toy to give Lou. Everything seems fine until a zombie appears and attacks Patrick. He manages to escape, slamming the supermarket door on the zombie, then takes off on his snowmobile with his dog. The problem is, this particular zombie is extremely strong and nearly breaks down the door. While fleeing in a panic, Patrick isn't paying attention and crashes into a tree. He and the dog are thrown off the snowmobile. Moments later, Patrick opens his eyes to see that same zombie looming over him in a horrifying scene. Weirdly, the zombie doesn't touch him and simply walks away. Why? Because these zombies can't see. They're not the same ones from 9 years ago. They've evolved to survive the icy conditions and rely heavily on their sense of hearing, which is now super sharp. As soon as the zombie leaves, Patrick scrambles to right the snowmobile and rushes home to warn Jack. Not long after, Patrick arrives at his place and starts shouting for Jack that a zombie is out there. Suddenly, the zombie shows up too and knocks Patrick right off the snowmobile. It pounces on Patrick, trying to bite him, and Jack comes out of his house with a gun. But Jack lowers the weapon and refuses to help Patrick, letting the zombie bite Patrick's neck. Eventually, Patrick's dog intervenes, fighting the zombie off his owner. Patrick manages to grab the gun, but he's already wounded. Tragically, the zombie kills the dog as it attacks him, and Patrick, injured, can't aim properly when he fires, allowing the zombie to flee. Patrick forgets everything else and rushes to his dying dog, sobbing uncontrollably over the loss of his only companion. He carries his dog inside to bury him later. Lou has witnessed all of this and breaks down crying over the dog as well. She lashes out at Jack when he comes inside, furious that he could have saved Patrick and the dog from the start, but didn't. Meanwhile, Patrick goes inside his own home and checks the mirror to assess his neck wound. Horrified by its size, he's convinced he'll turn into a zombie. Immediately, he tries to disinfect the injury and grabs a gun to kill himself before he transforms. He blacks out before he can do it. Hours later, Patrick comes to and is stunned that he hasn't changed into a zombie. He vows to avenge his dog, planning to capture and torture the zombie that killed his companion. Next day, Jack is boarding up all the windows, worried Patrick might have turned and could attack them. He's shocked when he sees Patrick is perfectly fine, standing outside, digging a grave for his dog. Lou is still furious with Jack, arguing that she can't stand living this way anymore. She even threatens to go out on her own if he doesn't get flowers for her mother's grave. Terrified, Jack heads out immediately to find some flowers. After a while, he comes back with them, and Lou is overjoyed, thanking him as she goes to replace the flowers at her mother's resting place. She also takes some of the flowers to place by the dog's grave. She sneaks out through a gap in the fence to get to the grave. Everything is peaceful for a moment until the zombie returns, striking Lou in the eye. It nearly devours her, but Jack appears in time to save her. He relentlessly beats the zombie in a rage, injuring his own hand and taking a deep cut to his stomach from the zombie's claws. Jack is so furious, he keeps attacking the zombie until it can't move. Then he rushes to Lou's side and sees the large wound near her eye, breaking down in tears. Suddenly, the sound of a gun being cocked rings out. Jack glances up, terrified to see Patrick pointing a rifle at him. In that moment, Jack is sure Patrick is about to kill him in revenge. But Patrick actually fires at the zombie, which had gotten back up, ready to pounce on Jack from behind. Jack then passes out. After a while, he comes around and finds himself in Patrick's house, his stomach wound cleaned and dressed. Panicked, he frantically searches for Lou. He rushes outside and is horrified to see the zombie there, but it's chained up. Patrick has tied it with heavy chains so he can torture it and avenge his dog. Indeed, Patrick picks up a stick and starts beating it. Patrick explains to Jack that over the past 9 years, the zombies have adapted to the cold. He says their kind might die out if they're all eliminated, because the infection no longer spreads through bites or scratches like it used to. Jack, however, isn't really listening. He's too worried about Lou, but then she appears. He runs to her, hugging and crying. Patrick watches, hiding his own pain at being unable to hold his daughter or even tell her that he's her real father. After that, Jack takes Lou and goes home. Soon, Patrick heads inside his own place and sees that Lou is calling him on the walkie-talkie, inviting him over for dinner the next day. Ecstatic, Patrick laughs and says yes without a second thought. The next morning, Patrick is up early, taking a long shower and even shaving his beard, wanting to look his best for dinner. He arrives at Lou's place, where Jack greets him at the door. Then Jack calls Lou down, and she's surprised to see Patrick beardless at first, but soon rushes to hug him. They all sit together, eat, and chat. The atmosphere is relaxed and pleasant. After dinner, Patrick tells Lou a bedtime story until she dozes off. Jack shows up and apologizes for the dog's death, admitting it was partly his fault. He also says he needs Patrick's help in protecting Lou if any more zombies come. Patrick suggests they should leave, mentioning that Emma's old car still works and it would be best if they all got away from here. Jack snaps at the idea, refusing to leave, convinced that no zombies will find their way here. Patrick argues right back, certain the zombies will show up eventually. Their heated words escalate until Jack orders Patrick to leave. Then Jack sits next to Lou, pondering Patrick's warning. Next day, Patrick is preparing the car to go into town for supplies. Unexpectedly, Jack and Lou show up, asking Patrick to take them along. Patrick immediately agrees and is thrilled. They all hop in the car, and Lou is excited. This is her first time leaving the house. After a while, they arrive at the supermarket and collect what they need. As they step outside, Lou spots a strange girl off in the distance, watching them. Jack grows tense and pulls Lou close. Patrick goes over to see who the girl is. At first, she stands there like a statue, but when Patrick touches her shoulder, she starts screaming and hits him until she faints. Patrick carries her into the car and they head back to his house, laying her down on a bed. They leave her alone until she wakes up, calms down, and explains her story. She was traveling north with her family, hoping to find a functioning city. They met other survivors, stayed together for a while, she fell in love, and they got married. She's now pregnant. Everything was fine until a huge group of zombies, dozens of them, attacked and killed almost everyone. She was the only one who made it out alive. Overcome with sorrow, she starts crying. Lou notices and suggests she braid her hair to distract her and cheer her up a bit. It works for a moment, but suddenly she hears the chained zombies screaming from outside and becomes hysterical again. Patrick tries to reassure her, saying he's captured a zombie and chained it up. On hearing this, she freaks out even more, rushes to grab a gun from the table, and shoots the chained up zombie. Patrick follows her, only to see she's already killed it. She explains that the zombie was howling to alert the others to where it was. Horrified, Patrick realizes what's about to happen. Right then, they all hear the rest of the zombies howling in the distance. Patrick and the girl scramble back into the house, handing out weapons to everyone. Before long, the zombies arrive. Jack takes Lou into the cellar to keep her safe, but Lou is terrified of going down alone, so he calms her enough to convince her to hide there. The problem is, as soon as Lou gets into the cellar, she runs into a zombie. Fortunately, it can't see her, and she manages to slip away. Quick-thinking Lou tosses her toy into a large trunk and sets her flashlight on it so the toy starts making sounds. The noise lures the zombie into the trunk, and Lou slams it shut, locking it inside. Upstairs, Patrick hears the commotion coming from the cellar and worries about Lou's safety. He kicks the door open. The moment he does, another zombie ambushes him, knocking him down and nearly tearing him apart. The strange girl quickly turns on a music device, blasting noise at full volume. Because the zombies have such sensitive hearing, they all reel from the loud sound, which ends up saving Patrick. It also saves Jack, who was about to be attacked by a zombie himself. Distracted by the blaring music, the zombie is vulnerable, and Jack kills it. Lou escapes the cellar unharmed. Patrick rushes her over to the radio, telling her to put on some headphones because of all the gunfire about to erupt. She does just that. Then Patrick and the strange girl start shooting the confused zombies through the windows. At first, it looks like they'll all survive, until the music device abruptly cuts out. Now the zombies recover their senses and storm the house again. Jack, who's come downstairs, sees Lou terrified. He realizes that in a matter of minutes, they'll all be dead. Overcome with emotion, Jack grabs Lou, crying, and nearly shoots her with his pistol, wanting to spare her the agony of being eaten alive. But Lou fights him off and tells him that with the headphones on, she heard a transmission about a city full of survivors. Patrick is thrilled to hear this and tells Jack, "I'll draw the zombies away while you and the others take the car, head for that city, and I'll catch up afterward." Jack thinks it's a good plan, so Patrick gets ready to leave. Before going, he hugs Lou goodbye. Patrick steps outside with a burning torch, firing shots and shouting to lure all the zombies away from the house. The creatures swarm him, tackling him to the ground in a brutal scene. As they start to devour him, Patrick has a flashback of Emma when she was pregnant. Then he dies, but not before setting off the fuel tank beside him with the torch, causing a huge explosion that kills every zombie around. In that moment, Jack, Lou, and the pregnant stranger manage to escape in the car. Lou is inconsolable, sobbing for Patrick. Eventually, they reach the city with human life, but sadly, Patrick sacrificed himself for his daughter, a final act of atonement for his past mistakes. In the end, Lou continues living with Jack, still unaware that her real father gave his life to save her. And that's it. Goodbye.